It is round 14 of the 2025 season and the last race before we hit the summer break. The Hungarian first hosted a Grand Prix back in 1986 and has hosted a race every year since. A very tight and twisty circuit, very few opportunities to overtake, meaning pit strategies often very important. The Hungarian GP has been the first win for several drivers, including Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button, and last year's winner, Oscar Piastri, who won for McLaren and what was a very dominant 1-2 performance from them. The only little bit of controversy was about which order they finished. And that's where we'll start with McLaren. Is this going to be another straightforward win?
I'm not going to say straightforward. I think McLaren will still be the team to beat this weekend. And we saw here last year they were the team to beat as well. But I think it's going to be less straightforward. I think the margins between them and the chasing pack are going to be closer. So yeah, I'm expecting a tighter weekend. I mean, you know that now that I've said that, it's going to be like the most dominant race of the season.
1 minute victory, guaranteed.
Lapped the field. But I do think it's going to be closer. Just in the nature of the Hungarian tight twisty, very, very different to where we've just been at Spa. And I know that they were pretty dominant at Spa, could stretch their legs. The only thing that concerns me in terms of the gap being big is just how well McLaren can look after its tyres versus literally anyone else in the field. And we see that tyre wear is quite an important factor at this race. But I think qualifying is going to be super important. It's really difficult to overtake it. And if someone like a Verstappen or, dare I say, a Leclerc or a Hamilton, or even a George Russell, who's quite good around here, bit of a Hungarian specialist, I'd say. But yeah, if any...
Pole here, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I think they did quite well here in the Williams back in the past. So, yeah, if any one of those lot can get in the mix in quali and get in front of the McLarens just with a superb lap, then I think we've got a bit of an interesting race on our hands.
I like that optimism, and I'll go with your answer, even if my actual answer is a little bit more negative, that we might well see another straightforward McLaren 1-2 here. I thought their approach to the Belgian Grand Prix was quite telling, because in terms of outright performance, it was obviously very good from McLaren, but that's not the first time we've seen that so far this year. That wasn't unexpected. What I was quite impressed with was the way McLaren approached the Grand Prix, because you had various teams set up their cars differently for the sprint versus how they set it up for the actual race. We saw Haas as an example. They set their cars up the same way for the sprint, and then Ocon stayed with that approach and Behrman shifted by the time we got to the Grand Prix. It felt like McLaren kind of just set up their car the same way across the whole weekend, knowing that that was going to work. Like, sure, it cost them maybe a point or two in the sprint race with Max Verstappen getting into the lead, and you know the straight line speed of the Red Bull winning the day then. But it probably cost them a point or two. It's not like it was catastrophic for them. And when we got to the Grand Prix itself, McLaren sort of just trusted in themselves that setup was going to be enough for them to win and win fairly comfortably. I will say with this track specifically, the Hungarian, it's one where dominance can be easy to come by if you do have a car that is just better than the rest of the field. So we've had, like last year, McLaren were a long way clear of everyone else. Piastri and Norris were sort of 14 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton in third. In 2023, you might remember when Verstappen won that year, he won by 33 seconds ahead of Lando Norris in second place. So if you've got the car hooked up, it can be somewhere dominance can follow. McLaren will be encouraged by the fact that their low-speed performance continues to be pretty good. They're not one of these teams that's dominating as a result of having a straight line speed advantage, or you remember a couple of years ago, we often spoke about Red Bull and how their DRS advantage seemed to have that DRS advantage on the rest of the field. With McLaren, it's not that way. They've kind of just got a better car across the board. And even at most circuits, they're sacrificing like straight line speed because they can get away with it. Like they can qualify well enough that they know they're not going to have to make significant overtakes in the Grand Prix. That serves them pretty well going into Hungary. If I was giving any optimism to a Ferrari, no, there's not even any point. If I was giving optimism to a Mercedes or a Red Bull fan, what I would say is, and I'll be interested if you can guess this stat, 2005 through to 2017, so that's 13 consecutive races. What is significant about those 13 races in a row?
In Hungary?
Yes.
There's always been a Ferrari on the podium there.
Unfortunately not. Instead, the winner of all of those 13 races did not then go on to win the championship that year. So sometimes it doesn't follow the form book. Nice.
Like that.
Yeah. Oh, a bit of an interesting one.
Bortoleto win then?
I can't remember saying that, but sure, why not?
That's what I heard. I think everyone else probably heard the same as well. So, well done, mate. Bold prediction done.
Yeah, that's my bold prediction sorted. We don't even need to go there in a little bit. Well, outside of Bortoleto as the third obvious main contender, we've got the other two being Piastri and Norris. Who needs to win a little bit more out of those two?
I mean, it's obvious, but Lando Norris does. I think as you touched on in the review of Belgium, it was a missed opportunity in Spa for him. And to lose points again to Piastri after what had been a bit of chipping away at his lead, and you know, it's a small lead. It's not disastrous by any means, but I just think even if it's not a win, and I think we're all suspecting they will be fighting for the win, but even if it's not, I think it's just outscoring Piastri going into the summer break is important for Norris here, and not to let him extend that lead any further. Again, like I say, it's not end of the world stuff if he does, but I think just even psychologically, I think it's quite an important thing for Norris to have the upper hand as they go into this summer shutdown for a few weeks. So yeah, I think this is more important for Norris to get one over Piastri. I don't think it phases Piastri too much when he has lost the lead, and you know we spoke about this as well in the review. It's going to be a lot of trading blows for the rest of the season, but I think. Yeah, Norris is going to need to win this round, I think, to make sure he's got the psychological edge somewhat as we head into the summer.
Yeah, I also landed on Lando Norris as the answer here. 16-point gap between them. If Oscar Piastri wins here, and let's assume Norris finishes second, 23-point gap. We've got to a stage there where Oscar Piastri has essentially a 3-race buffer on Lando Norris. And when I say that, I mean Norris could finish second, Norris could win the race, Piastri could finish second, 3 races in a row, and Piastri would still have the championship lead. Now, there's a lot of points still to play, 10 races to go. We've got like 16 sprints in there, I think, as well. So there are still a lot of points up for grabs. But that if it was to extend out to 23 points, which is roughly where it was a couple of races ago, that would be tough for Lando Norris, because he's chipped away at that gap. To then see it extend out as a result of the Belgian GP in this one, that would be tough to take. I think what Norris really needs to avoid is similar to a Lewis Hamilton 2016 scenario, where you'll remember the last 4 races of 2016, Hamilton clean sweep, he won them all. But Rosberg knew going into those 4 races, who obviously won the championship, he only needed to finish second at all 4 of those races in order to take the trophy by, I think it was 5 points. That's the situation that Norris is kind of hoping to avoid as we go into this latter stage of the season. And he can't rely on a DNF either, because that's a bad plan with how well McLaren are going this season. Reliability-wise, they've been bulletproof. So that isn't a viable strategy at all. Ferrari. Are they best positioned to challenge?
Well, look, after yours and Sam's optimism going into Belgium, I'm not sure I want to buy into anything. Misplaced.
Not my bold prediction this week.
Yeah, misplaced optimism. But as I said in the review, I've left a little room for maneuver for Ferrari, to hopefully make these upgrades work here, because they weren't a total disaster in Spa, but they weren't exactly the McLaren challenging upgrades that they perhaps hoped for, or at least their fans hoped for. But I'd be interested to see how they perform here, and I think they will perform better. But I wouldn't rule out Verstappen at all. I think he'll be in the mix here for sure. He goes very well around this track. He had his first pole position here, as did George Russell, as already mentioned. So I think Ferrari will certainly be hoping for a better weekend, but I think I'd put Verstappen as the next best challenger, as he has really been for most of the season, to be honest. But Ferrari certainly, I think, could be in the mix, could be a factor. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton are Saturday specialists. Lewis Hamilton goes very well around this circuit as well. Got a good old record around the Hungary ring. So do not discount him whatsoever. But I'd have to say Verstappen's probably been closest. But yeah, I think it could be a better weekend for the Scarlet cars. However, it might rain, in which case, count them out.
That was going to be my next question. I think if it stays dry, Ferrari do have a chance to be the second best team here, because I can't say this is one of my favorite phrases in this sport, but one thing that's often said about Hungary is that it's Monaco without the walls. They went quite well at Monaco. Like, Leclerc was a solid second place. Lewis Hamilton was not quite as in the mix, but he was up there. So if Ferrari were able to carry that on from Monaco, maybe they can produce something. We hear constantly about their need to manage and lift and coast. Maybe you don't need to do that quite as much at a track like the Hungary ring with fewer sort of true high-speed corners. So there is a chance. In terms of, you mentioned Lewis Hamilton, how well he goes here. He has 8 victories here. So apart from Silverstone, I think it's his most successful track to this point. Interestingly, though, like when you say Lewis Hamilton and his 8 victories, you immediately think, well, hybrid era, he just clean sweep like 6 or 7 in a row or something. Not the case. Like, he won here, I think, 3 times for McLaren. And one of his Mercedes wins was in 2013, before their era of dominance. In fact, that might have maybe been his first win at Mercedes, possibly. So anyway, like, he is like able to be strong even when he hasn't got a dominant car here. So maybe this is a week where Hamilton can get back in the mix a little bit. You mentioned the possibility of rain, Harry. Like, if you look at the weather forecast for like all of the days leading up to the Hungary ring, looks absolutely fine. Looks fine on Friday and Saturday as well. And then there's just a little potential blip on Sunday. Fred Vasseur must be tearing out all 4 of his hairs that he has left.
Yeah, he just wants to dry weekend. And look, I know the Ferrari's not good in the wet, but also them trying to really get a good gauge on these upgrades. They just need some actual dry running, which they've not had a great deal of, to be honest. But yes, he must be very frustrated by the fact that there could be some rain on Sunday, because as we have said previously, that car is a bag of crap in the wet, and I don't think either driver wants it. So yeah, it doesn't look as dead cert as it was in Spa, and I can already feel the flashbacks coming for look, if that does happen, I think it will be a totally different scenario. Hungary is very different in terms of racing in the wet, and I don't think the spray will hang as much as it does in Spa. But however, Ferrari will be praying that the rain doesn't come and it stays by the water park for eternity.
There it is. Water park reference midweek. Absolutely love it. Yeah. Oh God. They must have. I feel bad for Fred Vasseur, because like, he had a decision to make as to whether to bring those upgrades to Spa or not, and there was a bit of a risk because of the Spa weather and also it being a sprint weekend. He knew that they would have limited time in terms of practice to get used to that upgrade, but they went for it. They risked it, knowing. And Fred Vasseur's like logic must have been that even if it's tough at Spa and we introduce it there, at least we're going to have a bone dry Hungarian Grand Prix where we've got 3 practice sessions and we can get used to it. And then he looks at the weather and it's like, oh, it should be dry for most of the weekend, but it's one of those like 30% chances of rain where like You should be all right, but you kind of have to accommodate it. Like, you have to take it as a threat. And that isn't the position Ferrari want to be in. So they will be doing whatever the opposite of a rain dance is.
The only, I guess, saving grace consolation from this is that Hungary is a high downforce track anyway. So there's not going to be this parity between having this, do you go for a skinny rear wing or do you sacrifice for the wet? Most of these cars are going to be pretty set up in the same way. So that doesn't mean that Ferrari will get it right, but I just mean at least they haven't got to deal with that.
It doesn't mean Ferrari are going to get it right. That is the motto of F1. You've nailed it. Laurent Mekies had his first outing as team principal at Red Bull at the Belgian Grand Prix, and already getting into the weeds of Red Bull and making quite a significant change to Yuki Tsunoda's car ahead of qualifying. We knew going into the weekend that Tsunoda, his car would be a couple of stages behind where Verstappen's is in terms of upgrades. Laurent Mekies making the decision, Red Bull making the decision to apply at least one of those upgrades to Yuki Tsunoda's car before qualifying. It led to a 7th place grid start, which is his best qualifying position of the year so far, or his best qualifying position at Red Bull so far. Was this decision a bit of a sign of change, a sign of a new Red Bull with Mekies at the helm?
Yeah, I don't want to jump to a sweeping conclusion here that Laurent Mekies is doing something completely different to Christian Horner, but that alone, even if the upgrades, there's no way the upgrades didn't make a difference to the car, but there's the other side of just that. That's just a little psychological confidence boost for Yuki Tsunoda that he gets to have these faster upgrades applied to his car right before qualifying, and that I've got no doubt that would elevate his mindset as he headed into quali and could well have contributed to that 7th place as well as the upgrades. I think it's a positive thing. What if they've gotten there, which I'm assuming they didn't have at the start of the weekend, but often upgrades arrive, especially for European races. Upgrades arrive throughout the weekend as they are finished in the factory and flown straight out. So I'm assuming that's what's happened. They've arrived at the track. And I guess sometimes you wouldn't just chuck it on the car if the driver's not driven it. But I think for Yuki Tsunoda's situation, or certainly for that second seat at Red Bull, I think trying anything at this point is probably a good plan. And why not? If they're there, chuck them on the car. The worst that can happen is that they don't work and he ends up in the same place. So I think this is a really good call from Meki's side or from the team side. And hopefully, I know the race didn't pan out in the same way, but hopefully this is just a slight turning point for Yuki. It would have been good had he been able to back it up, but it's not all totally his fault. But yeah, I'll watch that with interest. But I think only good things have been said about Laurent Mekies in terms of being a team principal, certainly at Racing Bulls. So yeah, I'll be intrigued to see if that carries on. But so far, so good.
Yeah, I was delighted to see this because I'm not sure this is a move that necessarily happens when Christian Horner is team principal, quite honestly. So I was delighted to see that they are pushing the boat out for both drivers here. And it is an ongoing issue. And maybe the threats of Verstappen leaving, whether it's next year, the year after, or just knowing that at some point there is going to be a future without Max Verstappen at the team, maybe it's finally being taken seriously. Like maybe Laurent Mekies is the guy to realize that sooner rather than later, it's going to seriously catch up with them. In fact, you could argue it already has caught up with them. There's a reason they didn't win the Constructors' Championship last year. There's a reason they're 4th in the Constructors' Championship this year, despite Verstappen being the best driver outside of the McLarens. It is something they need to do something about, and ensuring that second seat is not even thriving, but just keeping up enough. That has to be a priority. So I was really happy to see them make this call. As you mentioned, despite qualifying going better for Tsunoda, it still didn't end in any points on Sunday. At least part of that is strategically driven. But did you take overall encouragement from the weekend that Tsunoda, there could be a future for Tsunoda at this team?
Yeah, I took encouragement from the weekend. Certainly his pace in qualifying, and like we've already said, the race didn't pan out. Didn't pan out the way he would have wanted to. It's going to take a little bit more than that for me to be convinced that they're going to keep him on for next year and beyond. He needs consistently to have more weekends. He needs to have more days like he did on Saturday afternoon at Spa for that to guarantee a seat, I think. But it's a step in the right direction. And I think it's the most encouraging that second seat has looked this year, which is, it might be the most encouraging that second seat has looked in, I don't know, because even the races at the end of 2024 with Checo were not good. So hopefully that does continue for Yuki. Because for Red Bull's sake, they don't want to be churning through drivers. They want to make it work with the one they've got in the car. I mean, it's a cheaper, more efficient option. So he's going to need more days like that. And just to have I think we said this before, just to have a quiet and solid weekend, just qualify P7 like he did, and you bring it home in the points, a P6 or a P5 or something like that. Just have a good, solid weekend and just build from there, because I just think that's what he needs to settle himself down, settle everyone in the team around him, and build from there.
What's crazy is if Tsunoda did finish P6 in a Grand Prix, that would over double the points scored by the second Red Bull seat this season. Like, it's just, it's insane. But this was better from Tsunoda. Like, if you look at qualifying P7, he was only a few tenths off Verstappen, I think, in both Q2 and in Q3. And I appreciate Verstappen didn't get the most out of that car in Q3 with an error in the first sector. But still, at such a long lap like Spa, to only be a few tenths off, I think that's pretty good going. The one lap pace was much better. Like, we were going into this Belgian GP with Yuki Tsunoda having been knocked out in either Q1 or Q2, 6 races in a row, 3 of which were Q1, 3 of which he made it through to Q2, but no Q3 appearances for 6 races. So he managed to turn that around. It's the race pace that still needs work. And that's what I think we need to see from him next. It's either, even if it's one stint, like not even a full race, if he can produce one really impressive stint that is like not on a par with Verstappen, but is keeping up with the leaders, that would then, I think, give Red Bull a bit more encouragement for the future. It's a long way to go to see what his future at the team looks like. But the good news for Yuki Tsunoda is, like, behind him, they're going to have reservations about Hadjar just based on how all the previous hires have gone. Lawson's already had a go. Verstappen is up in the air as to what his future is. Tsunoda's in a good spot if he can just show something. Like, he doesn't need to be 10 out of 10 in order to keep that seat. He probably needs to be like 5 out of 10 with the potential to be 7 out of 10. That will do for Red Bull right now. So if he can keep that up, that will be good for his future prospects. You mentioned that Verstappen might be the nearest competitor to McLaren this weekend. Why do you think so? Apart from he's Max Verstappen,
he's quite good, actually. To be honest, I'm not the Red Bull. It's hard to tell where that Red Bull has been for most of the season, because I think Verstappen's just been out driving it. I think it flicks between second and third fastest car on occasions, and either a Ferrari straight into the mix or a Mercedes. But generally, it's been around that second fastest car mark, and he has made the absolute most of it. I just get the feeling that around a track like this, where the driver can make more of a difference, it's tight, it's twisty. We referenced his 2019 pole lap in an era where Mercedes were pretty dominant at that stage. It was mightily impressive, and he only narrowly lost out on the win that year. I get the feeling that he could be the nearest challenger. He will be hoping he doesn't have an absolute 2024 version of this race, because that was a stinker in Max Verstappen standards. But yeah, I just got a feeling, feel it in my waters. I feel like he's going to be the nearest challenger. I sense I think he'll sniff a win. He won't have the fastest car, and I just sense a maybe a Verstappen special on its way.
Feel it in the bones.
It's coming. Yeah.
It's tough to say. There is obviously a chance because he's Max Verstappen. Their biggest struggles this season as a team, and Verstappen specifically, have been at these sorts of stop-start circuits. Like Bahrain, they really struggled. Hungary is not that. Hungary is a twisting, flowing circuit. Another twisting and flowing circuit, Suzuka. He did quite well there. So I think there is maybe optimism from Red Bull in that regard. But you also look at a circuit like Monaco, he wasn't particularly great there. Red Bull were comfortably behind the McLarens, behind Leclerc, as an example. Qualifying will be important here, and Verstappen is quite good at qualifying, so that is another thing that should give a bit of optimism. Last 9 pole sitters, 7 of the 9 either finished first or second, and there's nothing stopping Verstappen finding that special Verstappen lap and getting pole position, wrestling pole position away from those 2 McLarens. Although I was looking at his qualifying record, because you said it was his first ever pole back here in 2019. But that's his only pole here, I think. All of the championship winning years, he didn't get pole.
Can be bothered.
So actually, he's washed.
What? He's washed Verstappen. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll take it all back. He's not going to challenge at all.
Well, that sounds like an early bet for bold predictions. Should we get into those bold predictions now?
That's a smooth segue, mate.
Gather around, little children, and listen to my song about my F1 bold predictions and how they'll all be wrong.
Okay, Belgium. That was good, wasn't it? So
it went well, actually. It went very well.
I'm not going to say it can't get worse, because I'm pretty sure the last time I said that,
way worse.
We had like the worst predictions ever. So it can get worse. It just might also get better as well. What's your bold prediction?
My bold prediction is that after what was a pretty torrid time in Belgium, both Aston Martins are going to be in the top 8.
Ooh, bit of a recovery. Any reason?
The upgrades were meant for here, not Belgium. That's what I'm saying. So it was a mistake.
They sent them to the wrong place.
Yeah.
It's easy to confuse these things.
They're actually Hungary upgrades, not Belgium ones.
All right. A double top 8 finish for Aston Martin as Harry's bold prediction. My bold prediction is that pole position will be decided by less than 0.02 of a second, so 0.02. I think we're going to have a really close battle for pole.
I would like to see that. I mean, it often is the way here, right? It's quite a short track. It does happen.
Yep. That is the hope. Have we got a third bold prediction?
I think we do. Now, I need to work out how to play this, but all the way from his holiday in Greece, we've got a certain Sam Sage. Now, I am worried because he has been out for dinner. Have you seen he's been riding a quad bike, by the way, which is a terrifying thought.
It's been good knowing you. Yeah.
Okay. We can now hear from Sam Sage.
Hello, gang. Long time no here, I suppose. It's a podcast. I promise I'll be back at the weekend for Budapest. I'm just currently monitoring the rainfall that's by the water park nearby from Greece. So, yeah, that's great. Bold prediction time. P. Gazzle will finish inside the top 6, and I will celebrate by having a big old sausage. Hope you're well. Miss you all. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Sure.
Beautifully done. That would be the biggest train of all time, by the way, if Gasly can get 6th.
Yeah, that's going to take an absolute mammoth qualifying lap, and then he's just going to sit there for eternity.
No doubt at all. Pole 1, 2, 3. What have you got here?
Pole, I'm going for Lando Norris. I'm going to give the win to Max Verstappen. Norris is going to be 2nd, and Piastri is going to be 3rd. Okay,
I have got Lando Norris pole position and Lando Norris win. 2nd for Oscar Piastri and 3rd for Lewis Hamilton.
Ooh. Hamilton's first podium. Hamilton's first podium?
Hamilton's first
Podium for Ferrari.
Yes. Yes. It isn't a sprint race.
So it doesn't count. Exactly.
Good stuff.